Chapter 7, Jack Perrin, The Mystery of the UFO. The landing in Warneton, Belgium. Contact with UFO people on the 7th of January, 6th and 6th of July of 1974. So this is a research done that Mrs. Bazin, Senior Bazin, father and son, Bigorny and Boyden. Monday, 7th of January 1974, Mr. X, 31 years old, is traveling when on his Amy 6, coming from Comines, Belgium, to destination of Warneton. A commune near the border between France and Belgium. It's about 2 hours and 40 minutes of the night, and they're almost arriving at Warneton. The streets is wet because it rained a while ago, and there are stars in the sky, and the wind is zero practically. It's a beautiful night with the moon. The moon was going to be on the next day, the full moon. So the radio cassettes of the Snelder label was working. The car is traveling at a speed of 60-70 kilometers an hour, and suddenly the lights go out, and almost at the same time the motor also went out. After a few, the car's trying not to go out down, the radio also stops working. Surprised, Mr. X puts the car in dead mode, and it still goes for about 100 meters. The street is downhill about 4 or 5 degrees. He pushes the handbrake after a while, and as a good mechanic, he thinks it's a burned fusel. He goes out of the car to repair. He has his left hand on the door handle on his sides, and supports his right hand on his seat to ease the way out of the car. He doesn't finish this gesture, turning his head slowly and to the right side. He sees through the window of the door, over a little elevation near the streets, something at a distance of 150 meters. First, he thinks it's a horse, the trailer of the horse, you know, horse trailer. Okay, he thinks it's a trailer with what the horses eat. Those I don't know what it's called. It's the food of the horses. Those dried corn, I think, stumps. I'm not sure. He thinks after a while he looks and he noticed that there's a light coming from it, a white and orange light over this object, and he noticed finally that This object is supported on 3 landing gear. Okay, so he noticed that this object wasn't a horse trailer with horse food, but yes, an unknown object with a form similar to the Tommy caps. Afterwards, there's something interesting that he notices. On the left side of his windshield, he sees on the field 2 silhouettes about 30 meters from the car. He's agricultural job with his son. He thinks that it's a person with his son. But after a while, quickly he noticed that these men, nothing had to do with simple agricultural men. They were walking in the direction of Mr. X on a rigid pace and slow. They stop at a distance of about 15 meters, and after some seconds they continue the march to the car. Mr. X observes them better now. One of them is slightly shorter, has a little bit of an aspect of a Michelin doll of the tires, with little demarcated rings. On his head he had a helmet, round, with a glass or plastic front. Pretty big, he thinks. That shows a better part of their face. Shows a lot of the face. On his right hand, he has a strange object, very short, like it's a ruler, short and thick, with the pointy end and pyramidal. It points it on the direction of the car, like it was a pistol. The second creature, a little bit taller than him, so it's 1 meter and 20, 1 meter and a half, 1 meter 30. He's walking a little bit in front of the other one. His face is different. He has a head in a cubic form, which both sides are opaque. The front of the helmet is transparent, so the sides on the side, it's opaque, so he cannot see anything. But on the front, he can see because it's transparent like glass. And the face is strange. It has the face close like 2 twins. The cranium has the form of a pear, the wrong way round, so it's a pear turned upwards. The skin is slightly grey, 2 eyes perfectly round, like agate spheres, slightly in a caving inside the head, the face, on the eyes, in relation to the rest of the body, similar to the concave part of a human face. The hair over the eyes almost non-noticeable. The nose is small and doesn't have much. It's not very big in the face. The mouth was just a horizontal crack without any lips apparently, and when this being on a certain stage opened his mouth, the witness didn't see nor teeth nor tongue. In his helmet, cubic helmet, there's a box, rectangular, black, under his chin. His suit is like a complete bodysuit, is gray, dark, metallized, and seems to be a unique piece of clothes. Since from the helmet to the tips of his fingers, including the tips of his shoes, the two beings continuously approximated Mr. X, and he can confirm these details without any more details, in special the shoes, which are thick and pointy. Over the helmet, the cubic helmet, there's this like a tube that reminds a respiratory tube or a cable. Okay, sorry, I was just looking at the image to check how the image is. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that while I'm reading. Over the helmet there's a tube. The aspect of is like humanoid with a square helmet, and is very different from his companion. He's slightly taller. He has humanoid. Okay, so his companion is a bit different. He's taller. He's athletic, large shoulders, straight hips, like a man who deals with bulls, the bull man. A black belt and an oval, almost strong, almost phosphorescent. He has like something in his. He's like, I don't know how we call it. He has like a belt that goes from his waist obliquely to his shoulder. So it's this thing, this belt here. So he's wearing a belt, this guy. So he seems to be maybe more higher up, I think. From the base of his, also he had buttons on the side of his the buttons, can you see? They have very long arms. The hands reach almost below their knees. Mr. X, what allowed Mr. X to observe with such precision the face of these strange beings was that inside the helmet there was a soft light, a uniform that he compared to the light of his belt, of the belt of them. wouldn't pass to the exterior, this light, only inside. So maybe it was like a dim LED light. After when the beings restarted walking on his direction, they stopped next to the unleveling of the terrain. Mr. X felt a small shock on the back of his head, next to the brain. After this shock, he heard, "Don't forget that the doors of the car were all locked, but not with his arms, but not with his ears." He made notice a soft voice, which intensity was gradually heightening up. You must notice that once again the creatures were stopped about 4 meters from the car, and Mr. X, with such fear and surprise, had become glued to the seat. After our men had received that shock on his head and heard the noise, the figure of the helmet, the taller one, opened his mouth like it was going to talk, but nothing came out of his mouth. Afterwards, Mr. X suffered a shock and heard the sound, but this time the humanoid had his mouth shut. Weird, guys. So from the beginning of his observation, Mr. X noticed a third person. Oh, let me see. This is strange. So from the beginning of the observation, Mr. X noticed of a third person that was with the Michelin doll. He was close to the UFO, and during all this sighting and contact, even till the moment of the UFO leaving, this humanoid didn't leave his position of sentinel next to the UFO, guys. So you can see that there is always one that needs to stay. Let's go back to the two beings that were stopped near the field. The face-to-face with Mr. X took a difficult time to evaluate. These cases, the seconds take longer to pass. At certain stage, a small object in the form of an egg, like an orb, luminous, it detached from the left side of the dark belt of the being with the square helmet. So square helmet is a taller guy, okay, with the buttons, with that thing there, with the belt. So an object went away from his belt, black belt. And he didn't notice, and he didn't take much attention to what was happening. But it was impossible to find that thing in case of it being material, because there had been more than 2 months and a half between the happening and and of the sighting and when he started talking. The Mr. X shut up with fear of falling in ridicule and people messing him up in his head, you know. So meanwhile, the field was cultivated by its owner. He ignores what happens. The face to face is it's perturbed, interrupted brusquely. Instantly, the two beings turn their head to the left, and in a gesture of perfect synchronization, they look to the part behind the car of Mr. X. A mottled sound that was in the head stopped softly. Simultaneously, the humanoids, with movements always perfectly synchronized, turn around to their left, and like they turned in only one foot, like the military, they turn their backs to Mr. X, that doesn't notice that nothing new in their aspects and their suits, unless the only thing that he noticed is the continuation of the belt that comes from the shoulder, black, was going to the belt. So it was a belt that made like those belts, the normal belts with the miss belts, going from the shoulder to the waist. They go at a great speed to the UFO. The walking that the only way they could describe their walking was like similar to humans, bending bending their knees and moving their legs normally. But now, maybe because they're going away, they were walking in humid terrain and a bit muddy, like the earth. Okay, so they were walking on muddy and humid land, like it was dry and very tough ground, appropriate for their thick and pointy shoes. Okay, so the three legs of the UFO just disappears. Mr. X doesn't remember the way the beings got in the UFO. So they must have gone to the back side of the UFO, I think. It elevates about 50 centimeters, and after 3 or 4 seconds of being completely immobile, it elevates horizontally. About a trajectory of about 60 to 70% degrees, until it disappears next on the face of Mr. X. At the moment, he saw the object go. After the landing gear had been gone up to the UFO, he noticed on his back mirror, on the side mirror of his car, a white light of a Belgium car that was approximated. So basically, the aliens, they left because they saw the car far away, guys. But the Mr. X didn't see them. It didn't see the lights of the car. Okay, so let me see. The object was this. In the moment he saw this object was leaving, after it brought its landing gear up, he saw the lights of a white car that was approximating, and he relaxed completely, and he kind of passed out over his wheel for some instance, with a big sensation of relief, asking himself what if he had dreamt this, or if it was an hallucination. Meanwhile, the car was still approximating, and with all the lights on, the car stopped, and Mr. X got out of his car. Okay, so when he opens the car with all the lights still on, he goes out of the car, and he goes to open the door that had become crisped with his left hand. How now falls on. Oh, okay, I'm not understanding this. Okay, so when he leaves the car that was behind said to him, "Did you see them?" No, he says, "Did they do you any harm?" And the Mr. X says, "Did you see them?" And he says, "I had seen them, and the motor was down several times, but never stopped having lights." So he had seen them, and the motor also had gone out, but he always had the lights. So maybe it was a different car. The Belgium left, and the Mr. X, which the lights and the radio had restarted, was able to restart his car, and after a few starts, the car started again. He went home very quickly. Let's notice that the Belgium driver says to the witness, which is French, that he was gonna go back with some friends to see if there was any traces of the landing. If they would have found them, they would have turned them public, or else they would have put a stone on the subject. So basically, the UFO, that the other car had seen the UFO, or maybe had seen another UFO, but I think we're gonna know what happened now, guys. He kept the address of the testimony. After he never had any news from the Belgians, and he supposed that the Belgians didn't find anything. So let's find a few details of the. Oh, goddamn, guys! I still have 1.5 pages to read, and this story is very.